What is the best AI voice generator? I'm glad you asked. That's exactly what we're talking about today. And you'll want to stay all the way to the end because I have a special free gift for you that's going to make your next launch even easier. First, I'm going to let you in on what makes a good voice generator and how to decide which one to use. Second, I'll tell you how to prepare to use it because it doesn't matter how good a voice generator is if your samples stink. And speaking of those samples, I'll tell you what samples to upload plus how long each of them should be. So what makes a good voice generator? I've thought about price, I've thought about sample size, I've thought about how well it listens to the samples that you have, if it lets you regenerate the information. A really good voice generator is gonna let you upload a lot of samples. The one I'm gonna tell you about today lets you upload 100 different samples, and it recommends about 3 hours worth of content. Don't worry, you don't have to record all 3 hours from scratch. You can use content you've already created. Now, the reason we want lots of samples is because the more samples you have, the easier it is to pull in and recreate something that actually sounds like you. Now, if you're thinking, Brittany, I don't have 3 hours worth of content, what do I do? You can definitely create that from scratch. In fact, what I would recommend is going into ChatGPT and saying, I'm creating these samples and I want to have double duty with them, so I want to use them for something else too. Maybe that's a podcast or a training. Either way, you're gonna ask it to help you come up with an outline so you can just share your thoughts and create a video or podcast that's gonna work for your samples and that's also gonna work for other kind of content creation that you need anyway. And don't worry, in a few minutes, I'm gonna tell you exactly what kind of samples you need so you can record those and be really efficient with it. Now, going back to making the most out of your AI voice generator, you really want one that pulls a lot of samples. This is where most voice generators go wrong. They only pull in a few samples or a few minutes. That's one of the reasons I don't recommend HeyGen, for example, as the go-to AI voice generator, because you're really only pulling in a few minutes of audio, and that's just simply not enough in most cases. And believe me, I've tried, because I would love to upload 3 to 5 minutes and it'd be totally good, but it didn't sound like me at all. Using the tool I'm about to let you in on, I created a voice that sounded so much like me, my own mom couldn't even tell it apart. The one I recommend takes up to 100 samples, up to 3 hours of content. This is the one you want to go with. You ready to know what it is? 11 Labs. By far my favorite AI voice generator. It's cost effective, it lets you put in a lot of samples. Overall, it's just a really great option. And if you create something for you and you're like, that doesn't quite sound like me, you can highlight that portion of text, regenerate it, and it's gonna sound like you the next time. Now, I'm not paid by 11 Labs. I just really, really, really like them and think they are by far the best on the market right now. Will that change a year from now? Maybe, but for now, 11 Labs is the best. And if you want to have an AI voice so that when you're sick, when the lawnmower is going, when you have a kid crying, when something in your life is not perfectly soundproof, you're gonna wanna have that 11 Labs AI voice. So what kind of samples do you need for your 11 Labs AI voice? Well, at first it depends on the kind of content you're creating. If you're creating podcast episodes, for example, then you probably want to pull from old podcast episodes or create new podcast episodes. Now, when you're creating this, you want your voice to be interesting, engaging. You want there to be inflection. You want it to feel that energy behind it so it doesn't sound like a robot. And this is one of the places where many people go wrong, is that their voice sounds like a robot and they're like, this doesn't work. And it does work, you just have to use some more inflection. Normally when you're talking, your inflection might sound like this. I don't have a ton of inflection, but it's definitely not monotonous. But when you're recording your sample, you want to add a little bit more pizzazz so that it has an easier time picking it up. So instead of saying something like this, I love 11 Labs, it's a really great tool to use, I might say it like this: I love 11 Labs. It is such a great tool to use, and I know you're going to love it too. You see how there's a little bit more inflection in the second one than there was in the first one. Now let's say you want to use this for a presentation. Maybe you're split testing presentations, workshops, trainings, and using them as a lead magnet to get into your higher ticket offer, your mastermind, your program that costs more, even a done-for-you offer. There are 3 samples you're going to want for that. First, the intro. This is where you talk about your qualifications, who you are, really the beginning part of that presentation. Then you want to have the training. So this is where you're actually talking about whatever it is that you promised you talk about during the workshop, webinar, or presentation. Your voice is going to sound pretty different from the very beginning to the middle to the end. So that's why we want to have different samples. Now the third one you're going to want is the pitch. So your pitch is probably going to sound different than your presentation. At least for me, when I'm training, I go into teacher mode. I tell people how to do the things, I'm excited about it, it's really fun, but how I sound doing a training versus a pitch is quite different. My pitch might have more pauses so people have a moment to think. It might have more inflection in my voice too. And so we want to take each of those pieces separately and upload them as separate samples. By doing this, it's easier for the AI tool to pick up on those nuances and really sound like you and not like a robot. But no matter what you decide to use it for, you want your samples to be expressive, more expressive than normal. Avoid samples where you're sick or monotone. I made this mistake early on. I uploaded samples from when I was sick, and so all of my voice training sounded like I had a frog in my throat, which is definitely not a cute sound for me. I also got questions about was I sick, or people are saying, oh, I hope you feel better soon, Brittany. And I wasn't sick anymore. It was just my AI voice that sounded sick because I recorded it when I was sick. You also want to avoid uploading samples where it was like a 90-minute training, 2-hour training, because by the end of that, your voice is going to be tired and more monotonous. Now, you remember that free gift I told you about at the very beginning of the video? I have it for you now. This is something I've been working on really for the last 5 years. And before AI came onto the scene, I was heavy in the copywriting space. Not only had I written launch emails for many clients, for myself, 6-figure launches and others, when AI came onto the scene, it made it even easier for people who aren't copywriters to do copy really well, copy that converts, copy that get people excited to sign up for your offer. But you have to know the prompts, and honestly, you kind of have to have that marketing background, that copywriting background. So I created a free workshop, no cost to you at all. It combines everything I know about launch copy and everything that I know about AI into a workshop called AI to 10K. This free workshop is yours. You just have to click the link that comes with this video. It's going to show you how to get all your launch content done in the next 2 hours using the prompts that I've developed over the last 2 years and all the copywriting experience that I've developed over the last 5 years. My name is Brittany Long. All you have to do to get this free AI to 10K training is click the link that comes with this video.